Karibu Nyumbani, beloveds, which basically means welcome home. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki, here to assist you on your repatriation journey. Whether you're an African from the continent who moved, at a young age or went to university or left for whatever reason, and you are now looking to relocate back to the continent, and you're looking for practical ways to relocate. Should I buy land? Should I not buy land? Where do I rent? Where do I live? Etc. Etc. You're looking to connect on ideas on how to connect with the continent. This show is definitely for you. It's also for our African brothers and sisters who were forcibly removed from the continent and now they feel a spiritual calling to return back home. So the continent on this channel, the continent, yeah, is Zion, but the content on this channel will be exclusively about relocating back to the motherland, how to set up base, just the steps, the things that I have learned as someone who has a background in human resources. So, getting yourself set up, and using the wide network that I have to kind of assist you on your relocation journey, because as many of you have written to me, time is of the essence. And I just wanted to start off with kind of the five things you should be thinking about at this wherever you are on your returning journey. Some have already done the research. They're literally, some are already on the continent, so maybe you'll even be confirming some of the things I'm saying. Some have just started the research. Some, it's a spiritual call. They keep feeling this anxiety, like they need to move back to Africa, but they have no idea how to do it. So five must-haves. I think it's very, very important, beloveds, to first and foremost have a strategy and a plan in place, even if it's just a short-term plan. Like, are you just going to come? Are you going to visit a few countries to see what's going on, and to bring back the ancestral spirit back to the lands? Or are you coming to seriously relocate? And it's very important to know that West Africa is totally different, beloveds, from East Africa. And then, of course, there's a whole divide of, French-speaking nations, etc., etc., which would make it a bit more, complicated if you were to move to a French-speaking nation and you didn't know, the country. So I think it's very important to have a strategy. Like, am I moving to buy land? Am I just moving to relocate first? What's your plan and why are you moving? I think it's very, very clear. And at this stage, I'd even create a vision board, beloveds, of your relocation. Vision boards are very, very powerful. And I think especially if you're a family, if you can get your children involved in this, because they have such powerful, pure spirits, and create a vision board of what your life would look like, especially if you're thinking of relocating for good. What would your life look like? What kind of house would you like to look like, etc., etc. And try and get out of creating your Babylon lifestyle on the mothership. Try and really think outside of the box, and don't let things like lack of electricity, lack of hot running water, sometimes, etc., etc., limit you. But try and think of your strategy and plan of why you're moving. And then it might be good to do phases, like maybe if you're planning to move to the motherland, but to create your own little off-grid home community, etc., etc., it may be good to maybe move to the city and then transition out of the city to, once you've kind of found your bearings, etc., set your bank accounts, etc., etc. So that would be the first thing I would do. Have some kind of strategy and plan. It's very, very important. The second thing that is absolutely critical is to gather as much information as possible. So I would start with, if you're an only English speaking person, I would start with looking at all the English speaking countries, at least drawing a list, checking what is said online, and looking at what your different governments have to say about the countries, etc., etc., where your embassies are. Because one thing that many people won't tell you is that if you are an African diasporan who happens to have a Babylon passport, that Babylon passport in Africa will actually work for you. You got to use what you have, to get what you need, and that will really help you. And in terms of, I know they can be trusted in the country, but if you're in a foreign country and you have an American passport, for example, that will give you certain protection, certain safeguards, especially if you connect with the local embassy. And so it's really important to gather that information. Also gather like what would be visa requirements. How do you stay there longer? Some people come for like visiting visa. I think, the agreement right now between Kenya and the divided states is something like you can come for 6 months and then you have to renew again. And, but within that 6 months, you would have found your footing, etc., etc. So it's good to figure out, why are you coming? First and foremost. Secondly, I think it's very, and I was on the second one about gathering as much information. I would also look at vlogs from that country, vlogs about travelers who have gone to that country, etc., etc. I would look at then local newspapers to kind of get a vibe of the news. Don't listen to foreign, mainstream media and what they're saying about the different countries. I would look at also expatriate associations, because most, at least English-speaking countries, have some kind of expatriate associations, country associations. So you'll find, Americans living in Senegal or whatever. So it's good to just connect with those. Those are good places to start off. And they would often have a lot of the necessary contacts you would need to just gain your footing. So it's always good to have to kind of do that necessary research, look at the different cultural centers that your governments may have set up, and really use your passport to your advantage. Especially if you're from a foreign land, use your passport to your advantage, because they're here for a reason, and they've set up, Babylon has set up massive infrastructures, especially if you have a US passport, a British passport, a French passport. It will help, there's a lot that's a German passport. There's a lot that's been set up, so you could use that to your advantage to help you kind of gain a footing and, transition. It's really, really important. And what I was going to say, thirdly, is make sure you have a source of income, beloveds. Don't be thinking you're going to come to Africa and find a job. I would definitely first look online or remotely. And if you are from certain countries, there's so many online possibilities, beloveds. There's so many people who have done videos on that. But also you could work remotely. So it's very important to have some kind of source of income. I would go with like a minimum of $1,000 per person, per adult, and maybe $500 per child, somewhere around there. But you'd need to have done your research on, how much would rent cost. I would go with like Airbnbs, nicer ones or whatever, or hotels, and kind of figure out what would I need for a month or two. And I would definitely book my first month before I even got to whatever country I was going to. So you can book an Airbnb or something just to have you sorted, to give you that soft landing. But it's very important to have a source of income, beloveds, so that every month, there's $1,000 coming in, and that will translate to quite a bit of money in different countries. And you could literally, as an individual, survive on that if you're not living very extravagant. Depending on your needs, figure out what would be your monthly budget where you'd be comfortable. And if you needed to go back home, you could just, you could easily afford to get on a ticket, et cetera, et cetera. And for those who really have absolutely no finances, but they want to come home, you have to start setting aside, start making those sacrifices, beloveds. That's the only way. Start creating side hustles, start creating extra streams of income. And if it's a family, I would say, maybe send a scout, maybe send one, pool your money together and send maybe a couple out from the family or something like that to kind of come and figure things out. And then, others will come. That's how the Indians did it. That's how the Lebanese did it. That's how the Chinese did it. And so we don't need to make it that complicated at all, So definitely look into that. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back, beloveds, to Karibu Nyumbani. Welcome home in Kiswahili, where we've started this new community, because so many of you have reached out to us by email, etc., asking us, how do I move back? Where do I move back? How do I get in touch with someone for property? How do I get in touch with this? How do I get in touch with that? And so we would very much like to help you on that journey. We've been on our own journey, beloveds, even moving from the city to, an off-grid off-grid remote area requires its own extensive planning, etc., etc. But we do have a network of realtors, travel agents, that we've used personally, that we could recommend to you, that would give you a very personal experience, which is one of the reasons why we started this channel. We're also, I'm also encouraging, a lot of people have reached out to me wanting to be country ambassadors, wanting to help people relocate. So if you are in Malawi, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Ghana, and you want to be a country representative where you help people relocate, or you can act as a consultant, definitely consider joining the Patreon page as well for lawyers, realtors, and we will definitely share your information with our wider family. So some must haves, as I said before, you got to have a strategy and a plan, understand why you're moving, how long do you want to move for, and it's becoming that the windows are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and there's some people who feel like they just need to relocate. They may have never traveled here, they may have been to Africa maybe 10 years ago, they may have even traveled like the 20 years ago, but they're feeling this urge. So if you're one of those people, then it's definitely, it may just be relocating once and for all. I think it's very, very important to have gathered all the necessary information about the country and countries. I will definitely do a show about all the different English speaking countries, because I think that's where we're all at, that you may want to consider moving to, not just the typicals, Ghana, Gambia, Kenya, but some of the others that people have. But I would gather as much information as possible and use that passport, beloveds. Make it work for you, because you've more than earned the right to benefit from what they've done in different nations, not as a fellow colonizer, but to take advantage of the networks they've created. Take advantage of the fact that it gives you a certain security with locals, knowing that you're connected to your embassy, etc., etc., and it helps you with the transition process. But don't be trying to come as a colonizer. Definitely be coming, with a win-win mindset, where it's a beneficial mindset for you and the community that you'll be moving into. I think the next thing is, it's very important to have a local connection or a local contact. So I would advise, for the initial move, there's a lot of different professional associations. So, for example, several nurses have gotten in touch with me. I would look at the local nurse associations. Don't be shy to volunteer within the different networks you're in. If you're in accounting, you can check if there's accounting. If you're part of some kind of social group, you can check if they have a local representative. Places like here in Kenya, there's so many international organizations. So you'll tend to find, like, if you belong to Rotary International, you'll find a Rotary International here. Just giving you an example. So it's good to find, to make a connection. And I would always make it through a professional contact. Even if you're a banker and you don't want to come to Africa and be a banker, you could still use that banking status to gain access to fellow bankers in the country, and that would really help you to develop contacts and start early. And don't be hitting up people. You start early, beloveds. Develop the relationship. Yeah, develop the relationship. But I would definitely look into getting a local connection or a local contact. Another local contact could also be someone who has already moved from your country to that country, and maybe they could be an initial contact, an initial person that you could kind of meet, like what we've been seeing in Gambia, setting the perfect example with Black Sit and bags, and how people go and then they'll visit them, and so that at least there's already a network that doesn't exist in many places, but you'll find that there are kind of, at least if you think of professional associations or something you love, you'll find that. And make sure that you connect with that local group before you get here, so that you can start to immerse yourself into the local community. And finally, I would say, make sure that you have a lot of patience, beloveds. Yeah, make sure you have a lot of patience, because, making such a significant move, always remember the why. which is why I started with a Y, because it does take time to kind of readjust. Africa is on a whole other speed and rhythm that you have to adjust to. We do move to the beat of the original drum, where it's more leisurely. So you really have to kind of dial down your life and not have the expectations of Babylon. And that's why it's so important, beloveds, to already have gotten out of your system certain Babylon addictions, like the cinema and fast food and and this and that. You'll find them in modern cities, but those shouldn't be. You should already have broken those addictions, because it's not about just moving to the motherland, but it's about moving to the motherland and then moving off grid so you can be part of nature and reconnect with nature. But of course, the initial step, while things are still going the way they're going, you could move and transition to a city as you're taking a trip around the country, and then transition to different places. Let me know if there's anything, if there's any topics you'd like us to cover. I will go over each and every one of these step by step. So definitely make sure you join our Patreon family. Thanks to every single person who has already joined, and we will see you next time. Tuko pamoja.